All right, guys. Thank you for joining us on our weekday chop it up segment of the Grindhouse podcast. It's me, Terrell Washington. Terrell, say what's up to everybody,
Hey,
man.
how you doing, everyone?
Hey.
All right, and we got a special guest today, Brian Barnhart, voice of the Illini. He, the tournament didn't go like we wanted to go, so we got him here. But I want to thank you for joining us, Brian. Appreciate you coming in.
You're welcome. Yeah, I was hoping to be in San Antonio this weekend, and you try to plan everything out that way, and of course it didn't happen. But I was hoping to be in Indianapolis, frankly, just to get that far to the Sweet 16, and obviously we didn't make that either. So it's always tough when it ends, because and I think you guys know this when you're around sports, you spend so much time and effort preparing for games and working on games as a player. You're prepping and you're practicing, and then suddenly it's over. You're done. And that's a hard thing to, take on several levels. So even for a broadcaster like me, it's like you fill out the score sheet and you're like, this could be the last score sheet of the year. I mean, I'll be doing this again for a few months. And it's always a hard thing when it ends. And it always takes me about a week to just kind of get over it, basically, and go, okay, we weren't good enough, so we didn't make it.
Yeah. And that's tough, though.
Yeah, and we definitely, and I said we're gonna kind of get into that a little bit too, because I know when I talked to Terrell about him and his Sugar Bowl team back in the day, we always talk about he wished he played in the Rose Bowl, during that time instead of the which again, no knock on the Sugar Bowl, no knock on any bowl game, because anytime you go 11-1 during that. Anytime you go 11-1, it's not an issue. You want to keep playing, but for you, Brian, obviously being the voice and seeing so many teams and so many renditions and re-editions of Illini sports. What's been, and since we're talking about this, and I know I'm gonna start off on a sad note. What's been the toughest loss that you had to get over as a broadcaster? We were there.
Oh, wow. Well, you would think it would be in basketball, you would think it would be the national championship game to North Carolina. But that team had accomplished so much that year and had risen to a height that no Illinois basketball team had ever been. So even though the balloons were dropping with Carolina blue and white and all of that, it was still like you're thinking, man, what a remarkable season. I think one of the tougher losses, we had a pretty good team that got into I forget what year it was, 2008, somewhere in there, maybe 2007. We were playing in Columbus, Ohio, and we were leading Virginia Tech by, I don't know, double digits with 2 or 3 minutes to go. And I was talking to Wayne McClain, the late Wayne McClain, of course, who everybody knows, great coach. And he said, Brian, we'd have been better off just taking the ball and kicking it up into the stand. And running out the clock that way, and rather than losing the way we did. And that one stung for a long time because Southern Illinois was in the other side of the bracket, and they upset their opponent. And so we'd have played Southern Illinois in the next round of the NCAA tournament. And, you're closing in on the win. Virginia Tech, I even talked to their coach about this year later, Seth Greenberg, who's on ESPN. You see him all the time. And I said, what were you thinking, when your team was up by that much? He goes, we were just trying to press and scramble the Illini and just do something, try to fight to the end. And so that game hurt for a long time. Now, you say it's just one tournament, 1 year, but at the time, that was really, really hard to swallow. So any of those tournament losses where you expect to go a lot further and then you don't, those sting for a while.
Yeah, and I can imagine. Obviously, I'm gonna let Terrell, jump in here in a minute because we're gonna talk about a little bit of Illini football because I want to maximize our time as best we can, especially while I have him here with you. It's like, and I know, and for the football side, because obviously the Illini teams have, been consistently, what they can be with the amount of talent that's in Illinois and Missouri and Indiana and Ohio and all those surrounding states that you can recruit from. So as far as your Illini football teams, those what teams kind of stand out for you?
Well, and Terrell's right, that the consistency is what has been the issue. We were the Sugar Bowl team, with his group, and then you think going into next year, well, we ought to win 7-8 games. We ought to be able to do that. And then we only win like 5 or 4, whatever it was. And then that's been the tough thing, I think, and I grew up an Illini fan as a kid, the same thing, where you get a Rose Bowl and then you disappear from the radar screen for the next couple of years, and then you try to fight your way back again, and then it always seemed to be really peaky and really valley with the Illinois program. And I think the one thing that Brett Bielema, when he came in recently, was getting through that, being more consistent. Let's stop doing the little things that beat us every game, and let's start winning those games. And you've seen over the last 4 years, even though we didn't get to a bowl game 2 years ago, we did last year, of course, with 10 wins, but you start to see that consistency of what he's talking about, where you can count on one hand the games under Brett Bielema where the team has been blown out.
Right.
Every game has been close. We may lose it, but we're not going to go down by a big margin for the most part. It rarely has happened. So I think looking for that consistency, that's been the thing with football, because I think, and fans are fans, but Illini fans for their football team are pretty forgiving. I mean, if all you got to do really is just win 7 or 8 on a consistent basis, people say, well, can you be Ohio State? Well, it's hard to be Ohio State. It's hard to be Michigan. It's hard to be those teams. But can you be Iowa? Can you be Minnesota? Can you consistently win 6, 7, 8 games? Once in a while, win 10, contend for the Big Ten title, like Terrell's team did, and then people are happy with that.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that all the time, they may want more. After you get to that level, fan, and I've lived in places. I lived in Oklahoma for a few years. I mean, those people were demanding, you better win 10 games or the season's a disaster. And so I think for Illinois fans, and for me as a fan growing up, it's just what's been frustrating over my lifetime has been the inconsistency. Hopefully we're starting to see that on a regular basis. It doesn't matter what bowl game it is. Let's keep going to these New Year's Day bowls, or let's keep going to a bowl in late December. And I think that's where we are and where we need to be.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, the cool thing about what I'm seeing with Bill is that the consistency of the kids that he's getting through other, like the portal, but also outside of Illinois, Chicago, up in St. Louis and areas like that. I think that's going to be really critical for him and the program to continue to do what we're doing and continue to, like, New Year's Eve or after, after that, to kind of continue that process. It was pretty cool. I think when I came down back in October against the Michigan game, it was really cool because I was like, hey, we should win about 14 points. I think we won 13 points or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just to see the growth of the team, even though everybody outside of, Illinois said that Michigan was down, it's just the fact that we're starting to see the winning process and what it's going to become in the near future. And I think, what he's got going on there, it's going to be great. It's going to be great for the program, but also going to be great for the community as well, because the talent level that's going to come through there with the recruiting is going to be awesome to see.
Well, I'm sure, you've met him too. I'm sure. I mean, Bielema is really personable.
Yes.
He's really, he showed up. J.C. Davis, one of the offensive linemen, junior college guy that came in and did a lot last year. And, he was going to leave. He was going to go to the NFL or transfer or whatever. And Bielema showed up like 2 days before Christmas on his doorstep in Oakland. and J.C. said, I never knew he was coming.
Wow.
He just showed up. And those are the kind of things he does really well. I've called him like a professional college coach. He's really good at what he does. His attention to detail, and and Terrell knows this, all the coaches know football. I mean, you wouldn't be in football if you didn't know it.
Right.
But some people are just really good communicators or really good people. And I think the players know, and they can sense when a guy is real.
He loves it. I think he loves what he's doing, because when I went down, I met with him and we sat in the office and we had conversation and things like that. And you can tell that he really has a...
Hi, I'm Shane with Restore Hyper Wellness right here in Murphy, Texas. I'm proud to say we're partners with Grindhouse Sports Training just next door in Wiley. Now, Coach Washington over at Grindhouse Sports Training has done a phenomenal job at not just building out a business in the community, being a pillar in the community, but also being an inspiration to the young, talented kids that he trains each and every day. Now, last year, Coach Washington started a podcast, a Grindhouse podcast. The links are below. I encourage each and every one of you to go check this out. Listen to it, like it, enjoy it. Coach Washington will walk you through his personal experiences, what motivates him, what made him what he is today, and why he's so effective at being a phenomenal leader to these young, talented individuals. Check out the podcast. We'll see you soon.
Passion for what he's doing. He wants to see the program do great. He wants to see the players go off to the next level and play in the NFL. And he's there with them. And it's like, it's hard to be a college coach and have a winning program, but also when you're helping your athletes go to the next level and be successful on the next level, that's pretty good to see, especially as a former player at Illinois, but also going into the NFL, you still got him. He's going to still answer your calls if you need anything. That's really big for me.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And, he'll tell me, we'll do our pregame interviews or coaches shows or whatever. And he'll go, yeah, I heard from Danny DeVito or, not Danny, Tommy DeVito. And
Yeah.
I've heard from this guy. And this guy was in the NFL. He just hired James White, who had been in the NFL, of course, hired him on his staff now. And so they had kept in touch over the years. So he's very much a really good people person. And very skilled at it. And I think that's important, for anybody looking for leadership, looking for a mentor, looking for somebody who's going to, cares about them as a person and wants them to succeed. And he's really good at, and I don't think you can fake that kind of stuff.
No, you can't.
He's very genuine. So
Yes.
he does that with everybody. So I think the program's in good hands. I think we're getting the best of him because, he went through he was young when he got hired at Wisconsin. He was like 30 something, 35. He left there to go to Arkansas and he did well, but not well enough. And he got fired. And I think that humbled him a little bit. And then he got to go work for Belichick in the NFL and with the Giants. And I think that all, when he got the opportunity to come back, I think he took a lot of different pieces of what he learned from all those guys and it incorporated into what he does now.
And I think that obviously, like you said, it humbled him and being the personable person that he is right now, especially, because, from the outside looking in without knowing him, you wouldn't see that he was that type of guy, big guy. And, it looked like he just eats footballs. so you wouldn't know that from the outside, but from a fan's perspective, because obviously you started off as an Illini fan before you became, the voice of the Illini. So what was that moment where, made you just like, what, this is my team? I know, we can say proximity where you grew up, things like that, but I grew up in Michigan. I'm not a Michigan fan. I'm a Michigan State fan, but still, Michigan was where I grew up in Flint. It was closer for me to get to Ann Arbor than it was for me to get to East Lansing. But what was that moment? You're like, what? I'm cheering for, this is my team.
Oh, you mean growing up?
Growing up.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Well, I grew up a little farm, west of Tolono, Illinois, which is just 5 miles from Champaign.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, I always try to explain to college kids now when I speak to college kids, I'm like, broadcasting students like, not all the games used to be on TV. When I was growing up, and this is going to make me sound really old. If you got on TV once or twice a year, that was a huge deal. Every other game was on the radio, and the radio was how you connected with the team, or you went to the games, or you read about it, clipped the newspaper articles out of the paper. That's how you kept track of your team. There wasn't checking your phone. There was no internet to Google something. That was the connection. So, my dad was a big fan. We had basketball season tickets. We had football tickets that we would use for games. We couldn't go to football as much because we had harvest in the fall. You were too busy with the farm at the time, but we go to a handful of games. So I became a fan like right out of the gate. I latched on to some of those early players, in the mid to late 70s. Now in the late 70s, we weren't very good, and, frankly. And then Mike White came in from the West Coast and, Dave Wilson and Tony Eason and, Jack Trudeau and David Williams and all those guys, it really took off. So, as a young teenager and then as into college, I would literally go to my college at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I've told this story when I was nominated last year to be an honorary alum. I told the story of how I would go because the games were so rare on TV. In the dorm, there was only one television that everybody had to share, and so if I knew Illinois was going to be on against like Ohio State or Michigan or whoever, I would go get in front of the TV and stand there and then get the channel on, because the rule was once it was on that channel, people couldn't switch
Can't change it.
Yeah, and so I would do that. So my fandom really grew as a teenager, from a young person to a teenager and so forth. But what's cool about the job I have now is, and I've had jobs, and we can talk about this, but I've had jobs in minor league baseball in Lynchburg, Virginia. I had AAA baseball in Oklahoma City. I did Major League Baseball in Anaheim with the Los Angeles Angels. But I had to learn about those teams.
Yes.
I didn't know about the tradition. But this, this is my team. I'm just not doing the games. This is my team that I'm calling. And so that's a little different when you're doing it for your home team.
Right. And I was going to ask, because especially, being your team and things like that. And I'm kind of tied this into Terrell's team. But what is it about college sports, though, that because you just named minor league baseball and the Angels and having to learn about a team. But what is it about college sports that just brings the best out of just our people, out of you?
Yeah. Well, I love the college scene, but as I get older, I used to be roughly the same age back doing minor league baseball, I was all the same age as the guys I was traveling with. So, but as I've gotten older, and I know college sports is changing, and we all talked about NIL and transfer portal and everything else that's happening. But part of the fun for me is to watch a young guy come in, 17 years old, wide-eyed, not quite sure what he's doing. He was a star in high school, but and I'm sure Terrell can relate to this, where you come in as you've been the dominant guy on your team, and then suddenly it's like you got 50 guys that are
right,
and you got to try to figure out what the heck you're doing, and maybe you figure out, okay, I failed here, or I'm not doing something right. And for me to watch that as they grow and mature and become young men, and then take on a leadership role on the team. I remember watching Isaiah Williams when he first came. As far as an interview, he really struggled. He was shy. He didn't know what to say. You knew he had a lot of talent. He was a quarterback at the time. And then as he grew over those years, he became confident. And then he became a wide receiver, and he became, obviously went to the NFL. Just to watch a growth like him, or a guy like D. Brown, or a Chester Frazier in basketball, or whatever, to watch them mature and figure it out. We even had it with, and Will Riley, I don't know what his future is. I'm guessing he's going to the NBA. But even as talented as he was, he hit his wall, in basketball about December. And it was like, Will, where are you? You could tell he was processing, and he's trying to figure out, I know I can do this. And then he took off towards the end of the year, and he just explodes at the end of the year. And that for me is fun to watch, those young people come in so young and not experienced, and become a leader on the team. And I know it's changing now, where we're getting so much movement around. That's the thing I think I'm going to miss the most. Is that, and then and Terrell knows this, the community connection that happens with, as fans get to figure out who, as a little kid, he's my favorite player. We've got little kids now on the women's side, that are Juju Watkins fans, or Caitlin Clark, or whoever it is. And that's the cool part for college athletics for me, is the community connection, the team connection with each other, watching a team. And you can see it a little closer in basketball. Football, there's so many guys. Yeah. But in basketball, there's that little tight-knit unit that you see. Is the chemistry there? Do they like each other? And these last two teams we've had really do like each other in basketball. And I've seen it with football, too, the chemistry between and I'm not there every day, every hour of every day like those guys are. But I've been around enough. I can figure out if it's working or not. And that, to me, that's all the fun part, is to watch the teams develop.
Yeah, I will say the chemistry is the most important thing about it all. I mean, that's what our class had, and this cool thing about it is we all still communicate with one another today. Like I just spoke with Kerry Davis earlier this morning. So when you're talking about the chemistry and growth and building and becoming champions, this is where it starts. To start with the chemistry with the team, then the community coming forth and just being a part of what we're doing. Because all we need as athletes is someone to believe in us. If our whole city believes in us, and our little town believes in us, then anything is possible. And I think that's when the coaching staff, Turner and his staff, during that time, we did like some crazy training. So we went to this, we did like Army training, so that brought us all together where we can count on each other. So that's the part that I say that's very important, is the chemistry portion, because it brings us together. But also when we get ready to play, we're playing for one another now. And I think that's critical. I mean, just if any team can pick that cue up, it's all about the chemistry and the coaching and everybody. And then it creates a culture of great athletes, because you got a lot of great athletes already. You just got to figure out which, who's ready and who's not, and I think that's where the portal come into play, where you can do your evaluation in spring and midsummer, and you're like, okay, well, this is what we're going to need for the summertime, and bring in guys that can kind of help push the team along, but still keeping it raw with the younger guys to continue to build the program.
Yeah. And of course, like I said, the portal's going to, and I'm sorry, Brian, and now he got me talking about portal stuff, because that's it's going to just cause, I think that if you use it the right way, you can help with your team, instead of it just being, you can't build a team from the portal. No, when you try to do that, and that's the good thing with coaches like Coach Bielema, where you're able to recruit guys, and you got guys who want to be there and things like that. And of course, you're going to bring guys in here and there, but just to kind of fill gaps. But being able to have a coach who's personable and liked by fans and liked by the players, that definitely helps with building that chemistry. So with Coach, but I'm going to ask you about Coach Underwood, though, because I don't follow Illinois basketball as much as probably Terrell would and things like that. So how does he connect with his players as well? I know you said that, we've seen what just happened with the team here in the tournament, but how does Coach Underwood connect with his players right now?
Yeah, he really does a great job of connecting too. He and Bielema are a lot alike in their ability to remember names and faces. And, now Brad, when he first came, what is it, 8-9 years ago now, he was tough. Let me tell you, I mean, he could get on guys. I remember Kipper Nichols was on our team one of those years early, and in practice, I mean, Brad got after Kipper. He wanted a lot from Kipper. He wanted a lot from his leaders on the team. And I think as time went on, he's backed off a little bit. He's become very, very. It was always personable. I mean, he could get on somebody, and then they'd give him a big hug later. He'd slap him on the back, and they knew that he wanted what was best for them. I think in recent years, as he's gotten older and staffs have gotten bigger, he's more of the big picture guy. He's involved in everything, but he's become, I think, a little more. He's become a better coach, really, from the standpoint of dealing with his players and still being demanding, but not really because you see him on the sidelines some of those early years. I mean, he was Gene Katie like. I mean, he was going crazy.
Getting older and getting
and I
mellow.
think and I think he would tell you that he has figured out even how to communicate well with players, especially in this day and age when guys anymore, if you get too much on them, they'll be like, well, I'm out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else. I think that's the one thing I don't like about the portal is I don't know if we're teaching people to take some criticism, take some, they want to make you better. And I'm not talking about just being malicious or mean. I'm just talking about being demanding.
Yeah, right.
And I think he does a really good job of balancing, because I've been around the basketball team a lot, and see him on a regular basis. And, the joking with him and the players back and forth, and they're teasing him about his hair, or, he's teasing them about, so there's, he can be demanding, but he's very fair. But I think as time has gone on, I think he's figured out how to communicate really well, make that point, without just having to drive it home over and over again. Now, some of that might have been early on. We weren't very good the first couple of years, and he wasn't used to losing. But I think as he's really, and he's done a great job with the program and with the guys, and developing that consistency that Illinois basketball fans, I mentioned football fans are a little more lenient. They just want some consistency. Yeah. Basketball is a whole different thing. They want you better win 20 games, or you better forget it.
Yeah, exactly.
They're much more demanding that way. So I'm really lucky with the guys I work with Brad and with Brett. They're both really good at what they do. and they're just really good communicators.
Well, Brian, like I said, I appreciate you jumping on with this. I got one more thing I got to ask because Terrell's here. How good was Terrell and his team?
How good was Terrell? Was awesome.
Yep. Hey,
that team was that in that time. I mean, and he knows this, but I mean, talk about the guys that switched sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ron Turner was really good at picking up on, okay, Kelvin Hayden needs to move to the other side of the ball, or, you know, when he was coaching him, or, you know, Kerry Davis, we're going to utilize him this way. Josh Whitman, we're going to utilize him this way. He was a real good that way, really smart and capable coach. And then that group was fun because they just, you know, Kittner was kind of a bulldog. I mean, Terrell knows, I mean, I guess knowing better than I do. Kurt was with me in the booth for 8 years, and, you know, he was precise, and he could be a very cerebral, but I know in the huddle he was pretty demanding, from what I understand.
Yes.
He told me that, you know, he had guys that wanted to follow him in the huddle.
They believed in him.
And I had heard that Bielema asked him to come and speak this last fall. And I think Bielema wasn't quite sure what to expect with Kurt because he seemed so low key. And then he went in there and gave the team speech, and Bielema was like, "Oh my gosh," you know, he was fired up. So, but that team had those kind of leaders, you know, Walter Young and Kerry's awesome, obviously working with Kerry on the radio and what he does. He's so smart and so able to explain the game to fans in a way that they understand. And I think that was just a really good group of guys and a great team. And you can see why with the way they've come along in their professional life afterwards, you can tell that was just a great mix of guys that came together at the right time.
Sounds good. All right, Terrell, now I believe you, man.
No. I was like I tell everybody, I was like a sack master. I did what I had to do. I mean, I did my plays. Coach say, "Hey, you're gonna run this." Okay, cool. And my productivity was 97%, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I mean, you might have exaggerated, so who knows? But Brian, like I said, we want to thank you for jumping on. I had a lot more stuff to talk about, but I know, you know, time gets away from us in these type of formats and things like that. So I appreciate you jumping in and joining us here today.
Yes,
hey, no problem. Glad to help out and glad to be a part of it. So thank you for thinking of me. For sure.
No problem.
I know Terrell probably will see you up because he'll be up in Illinois in a few weeks there in that area.
Yeah,
so.
April the 11th, I'll be there. We're having a camp up in Bloomington, Missouri. Bloomington, Illinois, and then we're going back to St. Louis to have a camp in St. Louis, Missouri after that. So, yes, I can't wait, and I think I'm on. I think next week, right? April 8th,
I think
right?
you're on the radio with me. Yeah, probably
April 8th.
week.
Yeah.
So, Mm-hmm.
Sounds great, man. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Very good.
All right,
look
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Brian.
All right. Yep, appreciate it.
All right.